Hi guys. Okay, so this is about building a buffer. If you watched my video yesterday, I was talking about The Richest Man in Babylon. Oop, this book right here. I know it's written backwards. Sorry about that. But it's a phenomenal book with really simple, practical things. And the one that I want to talk about is building a buffer. And I know people have heard Dave Ramsey, and he's talked about having some kind of a savings account. I don't follow his stuff. I love Crown Financial Ministries personally, and so I know more about them. But I've heard people talk about it, and so I know he has like some kind of a baby step about saving a certain amount of money. This, I'm just saying, build a buffer. The absolute only way to start to get out of a financial mess is to have a reserve of three things: money, food, and time. That's just been my experience in life. If you've had other things, feel free to mention them in the comments. But those have been my three things. As long as you had a little bit extra money, a little bit extra food, and a little bit of extra time, you can handle about anything. So I'll share a few ideas on each of these, and then I'd like you to share yours in the comments below. But the four ways that I started to build a financial buffer were: number one, change. Like I said on the previous video, just literally taking your pocket change, paying cash for things. First of all, you know I love my envelope system. If you haven't watched my videos on my modified envelope system, how I used it during the lockdowns when they said that there was a coin shortage and we weren't able to use cash money, I modified my envelope. But now that we can use it again, I'm back to using cash. And on that, I do that so that I have that change and I throw it into a can. I promised yesterday I would tell you about this story. When my husband was in school to finish his, he got a postgraduate degree. He already had his master's in nursing. He went back to get some specialization. And when he was doing that, I wanted to save up for a graduation party because the degree program he was in, he really could, he basically, they don't let you work. They discourage it. So you don't work during those almost 3 years. And so money was tight, but I wanted to have a nice graduation party because we had worked really hard to get from paramedic to where he was going. And I knew it was going to be a few $100s. So I put my change in a coffee can, well, in a little jar. And then I'd empty the jar every month into this big coffee can that I couldn't see. I had stuff on top of it, so I couldn't even look at it. And about every 6 months, I would dump the change in at the bank, and then I would take whatever the dollar bills cash was, stick it back in the coffee can without counting it, and refill it. When he graduated, we went out to a really nice dinner. It was like $400 or $500. It was really expensive. But there was like a bunch of us that went and we paid for it. And I think we only had to pull like $50 or $100 out of our budget because all the rest was from that change from years of collecting coins in the coffee can. The second way is auto transfer a set amount. I do not encourage people to do where they sweep your bank account, and let me tell you why. I have many daughters, but my 21-year-old daughter just had an experience a few months ago where I got notification at the house that her credit card payment had bounced. And my kids, like me, have credit cards, and they use them to get points or percent back, and then they pay them off every month. So I knew this was very unusual. Well, I also got a bounced payment, like from the bank. They were saying that a check had bounced. So I immediately called her and I'm like, hey, this just happened. And she's like, what? Because she knew that she had quite a bit of money, way more than she needed to cover the bills. What had happened was, I think because of the way a weekend fell or something, but anyway, she had it set up that on a specific date, any money left in her checking account would sweep to savings. Unfortunately, because of the way her bills fell, because of this funny thing, the bills actually pulled after savings had swept her checking account. So she had all this money moved to savings. Her checking account basically had like $100 left in it, and then all of her bills hit. So they all bounced. She learned a very expensive lesson, and we laughed and laughed and laughed and then cried. So for that reason, I always say a set amount, or you physically manually change things over. But I have separate accounts at multiple banks. And what I do is I have two bank accounts, one that I move if you've learned about the allocated fund, which I discussed in a video back in March, you can find that on my channel and I can link to it below. How I use the allocated fund for periodic expenses like auto insurance every 6 months, like life insurance once a year, like buying the wood and the propane that we have once a year. I move money into the allocated fund every month based on what I need to, the amount I need to move. I also have a savings account where I move $5 every month. It's been doing that automatically for probably like 7 or 8 years now. And that's just kind of like an emergency, just practice set aside. Then I have another bank account at a different bank that I'll write a check from my checking account in one city and I'll drop it off at this other account. That's a couple $100. It was just like $10 and then it moved up to $50 a month and now it's a couple $100 a month. And that's the one I've told you about, my car payment that's paid by another asset. Well, there's a little bit each month that I still have to pay. It's less than $100. And so what I do is I write the check for more than that, and then it pulls out the amount for the car payment. It pulls out the amount for the donor advised fund, which I talked about in another video. That's the charities where it I invest in different things, and it's all charitable money. And then I take the earnings from that to donate to additional charities. So I put money over in that account, a set amount each month. So my 4 levels of savings are all stacked. I don't do just one and I don't change them as I move up. The first one is my change. And I did that even when we were really, really tight. I would just put change in a jar. And sometimes that would be the fun money for a 3-month period with the family. And we'd saved up $20 and we would go and do something fun or rent a movie or buy a pizza. Now, as things got better, we continued to dump money into that change jug. But then we also started transferring the $5 a month. So we're doing both of those things. Then the third thing I did was adding $100 to this other account. And then the fourth step, which we're not to yet, but we're getting there, will be moving 10% of our after-tax income, after deductions, into that account for long-term savings and investing. So I call it a savings snowball. People have a debt snowball. I call this a savings snowball because as I'm collecting all these different areas, I'm essentially hiding money for myself in different accounts. And so I don't know how much is in the account where I put $5 a month because I don't let myself look at it. I focus only on my checking account, and it's from my checking account that I pay all of my bills. And I also write the check to the other account that's in the other city. Again, I don't look at the balance of that account. I only have one of the charities that I give to every month that's pulled out of there. The others are pulled out of my checking. And the car payment, which gets money from the investment, is there. And everything's building there without me seeing it. It's just like putting the money in the coffee can. I don't see it, so I don't spend it. Then moving it up to the $100. So I have $5 going to that account. I have money in the coffee can, the $100. And then moving towards the 10%, which is going to be the investing part, not just the savings part. Now, how do I stock up on food? It's the same idea. Start out with, I do it with canned goods. And I start out by buying just enough to have one meal more. So it might be a can of vegetables. My dog just came in the room, I'm sorry. It might be a can of vegetables or a can of vegetables and a can of tuna together, something like that. But a single meal's worth when that's all I could spare. And then I moved to buying a week's worth when I would do once a month grocery shopping. I would go, okay, so in a week, I would have maybe 10 additional canned goods. I'll buy 10 additional canned goods. And I keep those on hand. And then I'm working to building up a 6-month reserve of food, which I'm almost there. And as things get better, if I find I don't need it, I give from it. And also, the food that I have kept on hand over the years, my kids could tell you, whenever there's some kind of a food drive or something, I'd be like, okay, go to the store and grab however many cans and bless me with them. I have them on hand and then I can just replenish them later. But at least I'm able to do and give to other people. When I hear somebody needs something, I pull it off of there. If somebody's coming by and I know things are tight, if my kids come over to visit, here's a few canned goods. So that's how you build up that food reserve, the time reserve. The way you do that is you set goals, you set timers, and you set routines. So today, what I wanted to get done is I wanted to outline my next 10 videos because I wanted to be able to share real good content with you. And I had a few things ponging around in my head. So I wrote down the titles and the topics. And then I spent a couple of hours today writing out my outlines. You do the same thing. What is the thing you need to get done today? Or this week or this month or the next 3 days or this weekend? What are the highest priority items? You write those down. Then you set timers. I didn't do as well with this today, but I did manage to set one timer and get the most important things done. I got thrown off because my husband got off work early. And then set routines. So I have a routine that every morning I get up and I make my breakfast. I get up at the same time every day. I don't work outside the house and I don't have kids living at home anymore, so I don't have to deviate weekends and weekdays. I pretty much get up the same time every day. I get my breakfast. I sit down on the couch and I listen to, on weekdays, I have one pastor I listen to, and on weekends I listen to another one. And then I have my time with God, kind of listening to my Bible for a little bit. And that's about the first hour or so of my day is devotions, Bible time with God while I eat and get myself ready. And then I will check my investments because that will make a difference as to whether or not I have to be around in order to invest or not. And one of the areas that I have that I invest in, the investments come live 3 times a day. And so I monitor that. And then I set my routines. So I look and I see what appointments I have. I look at the things I need to do. I know that I'm the most productive before noon. So I make sure that my highest priority items are done by noon. So the same thing with you. You put the money aside where it needs to go. You decide what you're doing it for, your why, so that you stay focused on it. You store up food by using little bits. If you need to, if things are that tight, then you buy the extra food with the coins you put in the jar. You may have $5 in coins and you can buy $2 in canned goods. You still net 3. You're still putting money aside, but you're meeting both goals. And then you set time and time guidelines. So you set a timer. And that's, like I said, that's where I messed up today. I forgot to set my timer because one of my timers had finished up and I had an appointment. And when I came home, I meant to set a timer for 30 minutes so I could do something fun for 30 minutes before I jumped back in. I forgot to set the timer, didn't realize until it had been more than an hour that the timer wasn't set. And so I got a little bit behind. So we all make mistakes, we realize, and we move on. But that is how you start to build the buffer. And that's how you start to get things more productive. Now, I would encourage you to go back to the timestamps. If you look down in the description of this, I have the timestamps for you. Go jump to those areas if you need to refresh one area that maybe you need to. And if not, write this down. And I even put in my calendar financial, since I'm not just at the coin stage, since I'm at taking money to the bank, I have written down in financial, and there's a set day each month where I say, this is how much I'm transferring over to these savings accounts, and this is what I have for investing. And I look at it on a set, actually 2 different days each month, on the 15th and on the 30th or 31st, depending on when the month ends. I look at those 2 dates and I go, okay, this is what I have to invest. This is what my savings addition is. I don't look at the total because it's not an account I'm drawing from. That's an emergency fund for me, that if something happens. Also, the car payment fund, I'm continuing to pay myself the car payment. So when it comes time to buy another car, I have my car payment money there already and it doesn't come out of my budget. And then the time. So I'd love to hear your input. If you have other ideas, things that have helped you, or just like, share, subscribe, let other people know about this. If you think this has been useful, please smash the bell and the like so that other people will see this. And if there's other things you'd like to hear me talk about, things that you liked, things that you aren't sure of, questions you have, put them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.